Hey everyone, it's Mojaxx back in the DJcity UK lab. This thing was a long time coming. As soon as the DDJ-1000 dropped from Pioneer DJ for their rekordbox software, I knew a lot of Serato users were really hoping to see a version for their choice of software. Well, here it is now, the DDJ-1000SRT. I've spent quite a few weeks with it, so it's time for my full review. Let's get into it.
The relationship between Pioneer DJ and Serato has been a weird one for a long time, looking at it from an outsider perspective. On the one hand, Pioneer DJ have made some of the very best Serato-compatible hardware over the years, to the benefit of both parties. But at the same time, Pioneer DJ have continued to push their own rekordbox software as well. The result of that has been a delineated product line, often with pairs of basically identical devices, like the DDJ-SX and RX, available for Serato and rekordbox respectively. This has never been ideal as far as I'm concerned. I like cross-platform, cross-compatible kit, so I'm not locked into one particular piece of software. Things are a lot more economical from a user perspective if you're able to switch platforms without having to sell all of your existing hardware, and it makes it easier to switch back again should you change your mind or want to use more than one thing. The good news is that things seem to be changing with Serato and Pioneer DJ. In recent months, they've released the DDJ-XP2 and the XDJ-XZ, both of which have rekordbox and Serato logos on them out of the box. I've got my fingers crossed that with those, we are seeing the start of a trend and that the need for multiple versions of the same hardware will disappear. The DDJ-1000SRT, though, is a product born of that earlier paradigm. It's designated as a Serato device by that SRT suffix, like the DJM-900SRT mixer a few years ago, and it features similar silver fader caps. In the same way that the original 1000 doesn't work with Serato, the SRT won't work with rekordbox at all. It's purely designed for Serato DJ Pro. It does unlock that software in full and includes DVS and pitch and time licenses, which allows users to enjoy all the features on the hardware. It costs around $100 more than the DDJ-1000, with a street price of around $1,300, which puts it right in the upper tier of controller pricing, but it still seems to represent very good value for what you're getting. So with all that clear in our minds, let's move on to the device itself. Construction on the SRT is mostly plastic, and I'm absolutely fine with that. I still own an original DDJ-SX, which is built just like the SRT, and that thing is still kicking in 2019 after years of hard use. It also means the unit is not excessively heavy, and it's easy to transport around in a soft case. Another thing it has in common with the SX is the size of it. The SRT is barely any larger than controllers in that line, and that's quite a big deal when you consider the SRT features full CDJ-sized jog wheels. Previous Pioneer DJ efforts which had those, like the DDJ-SZ, were huge by comparison, to the point where they were too big for me to consider as portable devices. Let's talk about those jog wheels then. They really are very good, with mechanical technology rather than capacitive, and therefore they feel extremely close to those found on the company's flagship Nexus 2 players. They feel a little lighter in their construction, but nothing dramatic, and having the tension adjustment means you can easily tweak them to your own taste. Put simply, if you practice on the SRT at home and then use Nexus 2 kits at gigs, the transition will be completely smooth. And for cutting and scratching, they're simply streets ahead of capacitive jogs, full stop. In the middle of those jogs are full colour displays, which are bright and clear with decent viewing angles. There's no escaping the fact that there is significantly less info to see on the SRT compared to the original DDJ-1000 with rekordbox, which features artwork, waveforms, cue points and more. The SRT looks a lot more like a virtual deck in the Serato software itself, with the playhead marker, BPM, pitch range, plus elapsed and remaining time. Which is better will depend on your taste really. Some people will find the 1000 to be too busy, others will find the SRT too basic. Regardless, having displays in there at all is definitely a good thing. I'm always a little lost without a playhead marker at hand. Moving on to the connections, the SRT is not short of options. There are balanced XLRs and unbalanced RCAs for the master out, as well as balanced jacks on the booth output, so you can easily run the SRT as the hub of a pro sound system. Sound quality is nice and clean, with plenty of headroom. Each of the 4 channels has a set of RCA line inputs, with the outer 2, 3 and 4 switchable to phono. Now, it seems like every time I review something from Pioneer DJ, there are some people who show up in the comments to diss the company's phono preamps. Well, I did a whole bunch of listening and some comparative vinyl rips with the SRT, and I can say that, whilst they aren't the nicest, warmest preamps I've ever heard, they are absolutely fine. If you're a full-on analog head, you're not the target market for this thing anyway, but if you want an SRT and will be playing some records through it once in a while, it does the job perfectly well. The inputs also work great for DVS control, as you would hope. Next to the channel inputs are a pair of USB sockets, which mean you can easily switch DJs or do back-to-back sets. Each channel is assignable to either USB port individually, which is an improvement over some earlier Pioneer DJ controllers and much appreciated. The SRT features 2 mic inputs with a familiar Pioneer DJ compact setup, a combo XLR jack socket for mic 1 and a jack on mic 2, both balanced. They don't take up a main channel, which is good, and they have individual level controls, shared EQ, and a talk over function which is adjustable in the preferences. The power supply is a 12-volt external job, which is okay. I generally prefer a built-in power supply with an IEC connector, but it's certainly not a deal breaker. As you might expect for a controller this size, the unit does require mains power. It can't be powered by USB alone. The mixer section does in many ways feel like a shrunk down DJM-900 Nexus 2, which is a very good thing. The crossfader is one of Pioneer DJ's magnetic Magvel pieces, and it has a nice smooth feel, not too light or heavy, with a sharp cut-in. The cut-in distance can be adjusted, but only in the hardware preferences, and it goes pretty short, if not razor thin. I suspect most people will be happy enough with the stock distance. As expected, the up faders are a little bit stiffer, with a smooth curve which can't be adjusted, but should work well enough for the majority of DJs. Queuing is fairly comprehensive, but missing a split queue option. On the original 1000, that could be enabled in Rekordbox, but it's greyed out in Serato DJ Pro, at least in the current version. Above the queue controls is a dedicated volume knob for the software sampler, the rest of which is controlled by the pads. Skipping over the colour effects for a moment, we find 3-band EQ for each channel as well as the trim control. Some people might be disappointed to not have an option to change to full kill EQ, as each frequency can only be cut by 26 decibels. I usually run Pioneer DJ Kit in EQ, not kill mode anyway, so it's not a problem for me, but worth mentioning. Moving on to the effects then, there is no control of the software effects in Serato DJ Pro on here. You could map them or use a separate controller for them, although they won't be post-fader. But I'm not too fussed about that, as Pioneer DJ's hardware effects have always been killer in the past, and things are no different on the SRT. There are 4 colour effects: dub echo, pitch, noise and filter, all of which work great, although lacking any kind of parameter controls. And on the beat effect side of things, there are loads of them. Low cut echo, my go-to effect, echo, multi-tap delay, spiral, reverb, transform, enigma jet, flanger, phaser, pitch, slip roll, roll, and the 2 Mobius effects, which I just love. The routing is spot on too. Effects can only be assigned to individual channels or the master, not to the crossfader, but they are still post-crossfader effects regardless, which for me is absolutely essential. I should mention at this point that all was not entirely rosy with the effects when the SRT first shipped. The beat effects were not synced with Serato DJ Pro. This is not a disaster when playing things like house music, as Pioneer DJ's audio beat detection is very good, but when playing down-tempo or broken beat stuff, I found myself needing to rely on tapping the tempo far too often. And unlike on a lot of Pioneer DJ's equipment, you can't dial in a precise BPM on the SRT, it just doesn't have the controls for it. I'm very pleased to report though, with the latest firmware update for the SRT, the effects now track the BPM coming in from Serato DJ Pro instantly and continuously. That's the reason I waited so long to do this review. I'd been told that update was coming, and I knew I wouldn't be truly happy with the SRT until it did. If you already own one, make sure you do the update ASAP, as it is a huge improvement. Looking at the deck sections, I won't spend a lot of time on the pads, there's nothing we haven't seen before there. They're great RGB pads with a good size, precise feel and all the standard Serato pad modes. Despite fitting those and the large jog wheels into the compact form factor, the SRT does not feel too pushed for space, with full-length pitch faders, pitch shift and sync controls and dedicated beat jump buttons all sitting comfortably at hand. I love the separate library knobs on each deck, allowing easy browsing and track loading, and they're positioned nicely out of the way. What I'm not such a big fan of is the loop section. Everything I've talked about on the unit until now feels very Serato by nature, but looping is the one area which definitely reveals the original record box nature of this hardware. You have manual loop in and out buttons and a 4-beat loop button, but the only way to make a different length auto loop is by using shift and the in and out buttons together, which can be slow and a little frustrating. On the original 1000 there's an auto loop pad mode, which the SRT is lacking, and you don't need shift to halve or double an active loop. The mapping just felt a little bit more refined all round. It's by no means unworkable, and I suspect some users will get comfortable with it fairly quickly, but looping in Serato DJ Pro has certainly been done better elsewhere, including by Pioneer DJ themselves on other controllers. The great news is though that with a bit of clever remapping, which Serato DJ Pro allows, you can improve the situation very easily. I'm going to give props to a DJ called Daniel Carthen, who has a video on YouTube showing you how to do it, which I saw when I was trying to sort out the looping for myself on the SRT. Basically, you map the in and out buttons to halve and double the loop length, and the 4-beat loop button to auto loop. You can then map the manual loop in and out controls on shift so you don't lose those. This makes the looping all work in a much more traditional Serato fashion, and you can do the same remapping on all 4 decks. Why it wasn't mapped like that in the first place we will never know, but with that change made, looping on the SRT is, thankfully, completely on point.
So there you go, my take on the DDJ-1000SRT from Pioneer DJ. We have to look at this thing just as a Serato DJ Pro controller, put aside all the platform stuff. Does it succeed in that regard? Absolutely it does. You know, I've been using Pioneer DJ Serato controllers for years now, since the original DDJ SX back in like 2011, 2012, and that one is still going strong to this day. This is in many ways the pinnacle of their controller technology. You have the full-size CDJ style mechanical jog wheels in this very compact form factor, and you've got the hardware effects on there. You've got a lot of functionality here for a very respectable price. If you really want that big jog wheel experience, you're not going to be disappointed with the DDJ-1000SRT. Thank you for watching today. Make sure you're subscribed and hit that bell icon down below to get notified anytime there's a new video from myself or the rest of the DJcity team. I'll see you soon.